got some major Michigan football rumors as the Wolverines fan base seems to be in absolute shambles after not only Jessie Minter, as expected, but also defensive line coach and recruiting coordinator Mike Elston head to LA to be part of Jim Harbaugh's staff. What does that mean? Transfer portal, defensive coordinator search, defensive line replacement, and what is the latest rumors around Sherrone Moore's program 13 days in? He's kind of in the microscope of all Michigan football fans to see what he's going to do in these first few weeks as Wolverines head coach. We'll ask you guys to support the show. We are in Las Vegas, helping out the guys at Chat Sports, covering the Super Bowl 49ers Chiefs. And more subscribers, we can do more audience here on YouTube, of course, with this show. So support the show by subscribing. It's free. If you've already subscribed, if you enjoy, send the link, youtube.com/MichiganTV, to a friend who is also a Michigan football fan. Let's get into what is being said, what the rumors are out there around this defensive coordinator search, though. And the name that's kind of exploded over the last 72 hours or so is Wink Martindale. Now, you may remember Wink Martindale was the Giants defensive coordinator the last couple years, right, under Brian Daboll. Was released from that job, let's just say. It seems like he was obviously fired after the defense wasn't, that great, I would say, this past season in particular. Prior to that, he was defense coordinator with the Ravens, and even prior to that, he spent, as part of that Ravens thing, he spent 4 years defense coordinator, 10 total years with John Harbaugh. Now, he has not coached in college football since 2003. The last year he was there was the fourth year at Western Kentucky. 3 of those years at Western Kentucky, the first 3, he was the defense coordinator under Jack Harbaugh. His final 3 years as a coach, Wink stuck around in 2004 with the new coach as D coordinator, and then went on to various other jobs. The majority of the last 16 or so, 18 years has been spent in the NFL. The intriguing part for me is the fact that he's spent 10 years with John Harbaugh on that Ravens staff for his defensive coordinator. And look, it just wasn't happening for this team, and they actually brought in who? Mike McDonald to backfill him. So Wink Martindale, big candidate. He will be in Ann Arbor on Thursday. Now, there were some people, I saw one link from somebody from The Athletic who covers the Chiefs saying that he thought Joe Cullen, right, who we talked about in the show in the last couple of weeks, Cullen, the defensive line coach for the Chiefs, could be hired by Michigan as early as tonight. I will be telling you guys here in a moment why that is not necessarily true. Keep it rolling here on Wink Martindale. I think the thing that's concerning for me on this potential hire is the lack of recruiting prowess out of this coach, right? Hasn't been in college football, like we said, for over 20 years. And this doesn't seem like the kind of guy who's kind of really flamed out his last 2 jobs, right? Defense coordinator of the Ravens and the Giants. It's going to come in and just hearing him talk in press conference and stuff. Probably a really good, strong football coach, right? Has been a part of some great defenses over his career. But at 60 years old, not being in the college coaching game since he was 40, I have a tough time believing that he is going to be a great coach and also an instant impact recruiter. With after losing Jessie Minter and Mike McDonald, Michigan's going to absolutely need that. And if you look back 3 years ago when Jim Harbaugh made all of those changes to the coaching staff, the one thing that was important is he hired young and he hired guys that could do both. Great on the coaching staff, the coaching side, and then absolutely maniacal on the recruiting trail. Let me ask you guys this question, though. 13 days into the Sherrone Moore era at Michigan, how are you feeling? Let's grade the first 13 days. Don't be too harsh. And people are saying, Yoder, why don't you put out videos in every little story rumor here and there? Because I'm basking right now. I'm basking in the glory of Michigan football winning the national title. It was only what? It was 29 days ago. Let's enjoy it for a little bit, guys, before we start freaking out about every single coach taking a job with Jim Harbaugh where they don't have to do all this kind of stuff. So give me an A, B, C, D, or F. I'm just going to go with solid B at this point. I'm not sure there's really anything much to say. Hasn't really lost any recruits, and we haven't seen the transfer portal open up like some expected, like what happened with Alabama and others. Keep rolling here. Wink Martindale, the leading candidate potentially. Now, there's some positives on Martindale. His long history with the Harbaugh family, right? Go back. He was D coordinator under Jack Harbaugh, right? And Jim was on that staff too in a volunteer basis. If you guys recall, Harbaugh, when he was with the latter stages of his career before he took a job with the Raiders in 2001, I believe it was, he spent a few years going on weekends when he could, the offseason in the NFL, and helping out with spring football at Western Kentucky, helping out recruiting and things like that. So he's known Martindale for a long time, and I wouldn't think that he would recommend him to Sherrone Moore unless the family absolutely loved what they had out of this 60-year-old coach who's been a defensive coordinator for 3 different NFL franchises. Also, coached 7 seasons on that Ravens staff, 10 seasons on the staff. He was there, 7 of them alongside or the actual boss of Mike Macdonald. Also 4 seasons, as the either boss or co-worker of Jessie Minter. So I would assume that those guys want to see Sherrone Moore do well. So that's a push in the right direction. But this does feel like some of those early 2015, 16, 17, even 2018 Jim Harbaugh hires. A lot of ex-NFL guys who were older than Jim Harbaugh, right? Older than the head coach. Some were younger, but that didn't really have the recruiting prowess, didn't really know how the college game worked early on. And if you have too many of those guys coming in, especially at the coordinator role, I do fear that Michigan may look back 2-3 years from now and say this was the wrong hire for Sherrone Moore. So we'll see how it shakes out. We have got the latest on Joe Cullen. We'll talk about that in a few moments. The Chiefs defensive line coach is rumored to be the top DC candidate. Says he won't actually look for a job until after the Super Bowl. George Karlaftis from the Chiefs. We were at media day for the Chiefs yesterday. So Cullen, the defensive line coach, rumored to be a target of Michigan for this D coordinator search. So we asked one of the defensive linemen, what kind of coach, and did you hear the rumors? He seemed surprised that I asked him about that. He's like, rumors? I haven't heard any of these rumors. But George Karlaftis, a Big Ten guy, right? Played at Purdue, 5-star recruit that Michigan went after. Here's what he has to say on Joe Cullen, the defensive line coach of the Chiefs. Rumored to be a top target for the Michigan defensive coordinator job. Rumored after the Super Bowl. Okay. So what would you tell Michigan fans are getting if that in fact happens? Describe him as a coach, how he approaches things from the defensive line perspective.
Well, I'm not going to...
You have to address the rumors, just what's he like as a coach?
I'm not going to fade into the rumors.
For sure.
We have this game. I'm not focused on anything else other than this game. But to speak kind of on Coach Cullen, he's phenomenal. We all love playing for him. He's a great human being, and he demands so much and expects so much of us, and challenges every single day to be on your details, keep getting better, improving. We've had a lot of success in the defensive line, and a lot of that is thanks to Coach. So I can't say enough great things about him. He challenges you, he expects a lot out of you, he pushes you every single day, and he's a great human being on top of that. So I love playing with him.
So there's George Karlaftis on what makes Joe Cullen a nice coach. Now he's got a little bit of a criminal background. Jack, like Sam, I should say, producer Sam, I think 3 DUIs. I think that might be tough sell, but those were like 18 years ago. So maybe not. Jim Harbaugh had one himself. My prediction is that Cullen is hired as defensive coordinator, though, was an NFL defensive coordinator. Sounds like the Seahawks have him with Mike Macdonald, right? Hiring his old boss as potentially an NFL DC. So I think that's kind of why things have shifted over to Wink Martindale. Next up, a college football insider joined us here at Radio Row to discuss Jim Harbaugh, Sherrone Moore, 2024 Michigan football. And wait to the end of the video. After that interview, I have the inside scoop on what's going on after this Mike Elston hire and maybe a players-only meeting. You'll want to watch that in a second. But I did need to tell you guys about Prize Picks. They are sponsoring the Michigan Football Show, Michigan Football Report all season long, and they helped us come out here to Las Vegas. I mean, we couldn't do it without Prize Picks. Things are expensive. You know how much some of this stuff is costing us, Sam, out here? It is wild. This week, it is the big game. It is the, we'll call it SB 58. And I made some picks on Prize Picks that I want to show you guys. So take a look at them here. I love Prize Picks. It's super easy to use. I just go on. I pick more or less for player stats. Now, they make it super easy, right? It's basically a win unless he doesn't play Patrick Mahomes. They're making the number as a half yard. So, of course, I'm going more on that one. Also, Isaiah Pacheco, I'm going more than a half touchdown. So he's going to score a touchdown either rushing or receiving on that one. Say again? Scored one in every single game in the playoffs? Okay, there you go. So, I mean, that seems like a more to me. And then Brock Purdy, right? I think the gut feeling is to go less system quarterback, all this stuff. I'm going more for Brock Purdy, more than 248.5 yards. Pick 3 more. I put some money on this, and baby, I'm going to get those 3 right and win my money. You can get up to 25 times your money if you put up to more or less on 6 different players. Super easy to use, 60 seconds or less, and you can get up to a $100 deposit match, your first deposit. And you got to go to the link at the bottom of the screen, prizepicks.com/CLNS. That's prizepicks.com/CLNS, and use code CLNS when you deposit to make your first deposit for up to a $100 deposit match. We are joined by CBS Sports and very popular TikToker, Adam Breneman, talking Jim Harbaugh, talking Michigan football. Joining me here at Radio Row, here's what we had to talk about, me and Adam Breneman. All right, we are here with the Michigan Football Report at Radio Row, Las Vegas, with Adam Breneman, CBS Sports, and next up with Adam Breneman on YouTube, podcasts, etc. Check out the channel. Me and you right there, like 31,000, 32,000 subscribers. So maybe we could toss each other, some of our audience, each other's way, grow together. So let's talk about some college football. Let's start Michigan and go from there. And I actually wanted to ask you about Bill O'Brien, knowing that you played for him for 1 year. I think it was just your first year there at Penn State. So let's start off on Michigan, Jim Harbaugh. What do you think the future holds? Coming in from a Big Ten background, covering college football, what do you think Jim Harbaugh leaving Michigan does to that program going forward?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge is we're seeing some of the assistants leaving Michigan as well, and Harbaugh brought such a great culture and just a sense of confidence around that program. I've said it all year long. I do a show every week with Jake Butt, obviously a big Michigan guy, and we talk obviously busting each other a bunch about Penn State and Michigan, but the one thing you can say about Michigan is through all the adversity and the negative noise outside the program and people talking daily about Michigan football this season, that roster never flinched. I mean, they never flinched every single game. You knew what you're going to get. They were going to play physical and take care of the football, and that's because of Jim Harbaugh and who he is as a coach and how he's developed that program. The good news is when you can keep a hire internally like Sherrone Moore, let's acknowledge how rare that is in college football, that a coach like Jim Harbaugh, you just win the national championship, your coach leaves, and then they promote from within, right? And don't go try to hire a big splashy name.
I actually think I looked it back. I went back like 40 years. The only one I could find was the coach at Miami in '83. I can't remember his name. The first net Miami coach to win the national title. He was the only one to leave to go to pro football. He went to the USFL. Prior to that, I went back to the 70s. I couldn't find a single national championship winning coach who left the program the day after the title and went to coach in the NFL. I haven't found one. You had Tom Osborne at Nebraska retired after a national title, a split one, by the way. But other than that, it's incredibly rare to just leave a team. They call Ryan Day third base, and Sherrone Moore might get some of that as well, taking over for the national champion. But I agree. I think there was a time, and you probably saw this as well, that you kind of thought the dam is about to break.
No doubt.
They're just going to wake up one morning and we're going to fire Harbaugh just because we don't want another media story. And 3 or 4 players just going to decide, I don't want to do this. I'm going to opt out the rest of the season. I'm like, and I was really impressed by across top to bottom coaching staff and players that nobody seemed to flinch and they almost embraced it, led to a national title. Looking back in this college football season, what were your big takeaways from 2023? Now that we're a little over a month, I guess almost 28 days, 29 days since the national title game has happened.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot, man. It was a great college football season, and a lot of different things happened in storylines. One of the big ones, the big storylines, obviously Michigan fans know this, is the rise of Washington and what they were able to do, and it was good to see a non-traditional program that's as of late make the playoff and make the national championship game. I thought that was good for the sport, and also showed you that in today's college football, if you can get a quarterback and get a guy that can that can play at a high level and transfer in, you got a chance. You got a chance to put a roster together. And Kalen DeBoer obviously did a great job building that roster, and Courtney Morgan, who was a former Michigan, helped build the Michigan roster.
He was at Alabama, I think. He took the job there.
Exactly. He's at Alabama now, so they did a great job at Washington. That's the main storyline to me, and I think we saw even more, just how easy it is or how fast you can rebuild a roster nowadays. You can flip a roster in 1 year. What Colorado was able to do, even I know everyone wants to talk about Deion and them not, even the fact that they won a handful of games this season is remarkable, right? I mean, and the momentum. I was at the USC game. They must beat USC and Caleb Williams. So the portal and the transfer and being able to get quarterbacks has changed the game completely. And no longer, what that also means, though, is that you don't get 4 years to build a program anymore in college football. You need to win now. You need to win right away. You better attack the portal.
What you're going to get,
exactly.
Right?
You got 2 years. Yep.
A lot more to talk about there with Adam, but did want to remind you one more time, subscribe to the channel. We're sitting at 31,167 YouTube subscribers. Send the link to a friend who loves Michigan football as much as you do if you've already subscribed. The best recommendation always comes from a friend. YouTube.com/MichiganTV. YouTube.com/MichiganTV. It's free. Subscribe to the Michigan Football Report. All right, let's take it in with Adam Breneman talking Michigan football. And it's kind of funny is the disparity now is forever in college football. You'd have the second-year quarterback who is a 5-star, high functioner. He might be the starter 2 seasons from now, and he was willing to ride out, okay, 1 more year after this, and the starter goes, or maybe one more guy in front of us. And now it's like the backup quarterback I always kind of said, like, the top 60 quarterbacks in college football are probably condensed to maybe 24 programs, 23 programs. Now it's like the top 60 quarterbacks in all levels, freshman, junior, senior, probably over 40, 45 programs.
Yeah. I mean, you think about the backup quarterback spot in football now. If you're a backup and you go somewhere and you're not playing right away, I mean, it's hard to ever see the field at a Power 5 school.
No doubt.
Think about Ty Thompson, the kid from Oregon.
Yep.
That guy, I mean,
took another transfer, right?
Another transfer, like, you're never going to play because as a
Nix and then
exactly
you get,
Dylan Gabriel.
Gabriel on top
so
of him.
Because what happens is as a coach too, think about it. You're a head coach.
Yeah.
You have a great roster at Oregon. You're Dan Lanning. Great roster. You know you have the culture. You know you can win. You need a quarterback, right? You just lost Bo Nix. Do I give the chance to Ty Thompson, who hasn't played yet, who I believe in, but like not really until they do it on the field? Don't know
what Gabriel could do.
Or
over
I
here.
see what Dylan Gabriel does. I see what these transfers do. It's my job's on the line. I'm gonna go get the transfer.
No doubt.
And you can't blame the coaches, but it's like, what do the backup quarterbacks do? You either got to go start as a freshman, or you got to go somewhere lower where like you'll play right away as a quarterback, or you got to transfer yourself. But then then you never played yet. So if you don't see the field early, it's hard.
Right? 12-team playoffs kind of seems like if you're not in that 12-team playoff, and I think there's probably like a two loss, but 3 loss, maybe 1 or 2 teams buffer. It's like 4 teams is your elite. You're in the playoffs, you're elite. 12 is kind of like, well, that means kind of like you're the 3rd or 4th best team in the SEC or the Big Ten. So you better be getting there by year 1 or year 2 if you're at one of those top 15 jobs, or just like 2 years no playoffs, you're gone. Where in the past you might have got you're 8-4.
Yeah.
You'll have some leeway to go on. We mentioned transfer portal. We mentioned NIL. I know you've got to go in here in a couple minutes. What does it look like? I feel with Chip Kelly, what's going on there with him now, the head coach, Jeff Hafley at BC, going to the NFL, these college head coaches not wanting to deal with being the general manager, player personnel director, head coach. Is there going to be any big legislation or just changes in like the calendar or when you can and can't transfer schools or do NIL deals and all that stuff?
Well,
how do you think that's going to change?
The calendar is the first issue that needs to change.
December is ridiculous right now.
I mean, coaches are dealing with the portal, NIL, bowl game prep, signing day for high school kids, all in the same time.
By the way, signing days today, there's absolutely no buzz.
Crazy,
about it.
right?
Yeah,
because
no
the
buzz.
early signing day is already gone and the portal's closed. So that needs to change, number one, to give coaches an actual ability to operate like normal human beings, right? That they got to change the calendar. NIL is a good thing by itself, right? Transfer portal is a good thing. Transfer portals change lives for players over the country to transfer. All those are good. The issue is when you combine the portal with NIL. Yeah. That's when the chaos happens. Kids are getting bribed to go in the portal, getting promised money. You look at what happened to Jaden Rashad at Florida, guaranteed or told he's going to make $8 million. Doesn't happen.
Doesn't happen.
Because
he's gone.
Because there's no guidelines. There's no real contracts. There's no parity. No one knows what the real deals are.
Amateurs, they have no idea like what's real, what's not.
And the coaches technically aren't allowed to make the promises, but they really are. Sure. At the end of the day, I think the solution for college football is what is probably going to happen is the Big Ten and SEC are going to take this thing over themselves, right? We just saw the alliance already get formed.
And they'll just make uniform rules that you opt into when you're done, right?
And the issue right now, tell me, who's in charge of college football?
We need a college football commissioner.
There's no one in charge.
We need a commissioner. Nick Saban would be the perfect idea. I just saw he signed on to be on College Game Day with ESPN, but he would have been the perfect college football commissioner. Set rules that make sense.
Exactly.
From
the conference commissioners are the guys really running the show, but they're also in charge of lacrosse and soccer and basketball and Greg Sankey's probably the one who's actually in charge of. If you said who makes the most decisions,
he's leading.
It's Greg Sankey.
Yeah, for sure.
Greg Sankey's also in charge of swimming and diving for the SEC.
Yeah.
So
it's
not
just
unbelievable.
A exactly. He's 22 different sports. Before we get out of here with you, tell people where. I want to ask you one more question about next season, but where can people find you, your podcast, your show on YouTube and on social media? You're big on TikTok too, by the way, almost 200,000 followers.
Yeah. Social media at Adam Breneman 81 most places, and podcast is next up with Adam Breneman. So it's on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, as you mentioned. So it's been fun to have a bunch of head coaches on. I'm doing a spring football tour this offseason.
Everybody watching, we'll link to his Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube channel in the description and comments of today's video. Quick, looking forward to 2024, lock and change. Give me your thoughts on who makes the Final Four in the playoff and maybe an early national championship look.
Yeah, man, I got a lot of thoughts about next season. I'll give you some sleepers that I think have a chance that, obviously you got Georgia and Bama and all this, but I think the 2 programs that I'm looking at right now that I think have a chance are, one, we just talked about it, Oregon with Dylan Gabriel.
Sure,
I think Dylan Gabriel's my preseason Heisman pick right now.
Yep.
I love what Dan Lanning's done, that offense, Will Stein, their offensive coordinator. The roster they built is really good. The one I'll tell you, I like Clemson.
Okay.
I think
Okay.
Clemson, Cade Klubnik, they've gotten some skill guys in the portal. Dabo hasn't really embraced NIL, but now he's finally learning that you have to embrace it. They've been down and everyone's beating them up.
Yeah.
I think Clemson comes out of this thing next season and they're right back in the hunt of the 12-team playoff. The reality is a 10-win Clemson team makes the playoff every year from now on.
sure.
So I think they get and that includes 10 wins, 10-3 with a ACC championship. So their side of the division's weak. I think Clemson's got a really good chance to make the playoff this year.
Yeah, my dark horse is Ole Miss at this point. They brought in so many guys.
They're dominating the portal.
Jackson Dart coming back. They have a great thing going on. So appreciate it. Adam Breneman, make sure you follow him. Links to his podcast, YouTube, and his social down in the description. You've been watching the Michigan Football Report. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel. Go Blue. Thanks so much to Adam. You guys can find him on YouTube, youtube.com/@nextupwithadam. We linked it down in the comments and in the description. Also on Twitter, Adam Breneman81, TikTok, Adam Breneman81, and Instagram, just @Adam Breneman. All right, so after Mike Elston, that's the big shock, the big, what happened here? Did Jim Harbaugh stealing him? Is he ravaging? I don't know. It's tough to say. I haven't really got the inside scoop on this, but I was told that last night after the Elston hire was made official that several of Michigan's, let's just call them biggest names, especially on defense, right? You might say, I'm not actually saying any of these names. I'm just saying you might infer that it's Kenneth Grant, that's Mason Graham, Will Johnson, Rod Moore, potentially Donovan Edwards. I just don't feel like these are the kind of guys that will look around and would transfer to Michigan after leading them to a national championship. But there was apparently a play. It wasn't like a players only meeting where they're complaining about the coaches. Just like, oh, we didn't expect this. Hey, we're getting offers from hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars from other schools. Michigan's NIL, for its better step up. I just really hope those guys, with all the history, the national championship, everything that Michigan's done for them, the NFL draft is a year away for these guys. All right, just stick around at Michigan for one more season. Don't walk away and leave the cupboard completely bare for Sherrone Moore. So hopefully that players-only meeting was about sticking it together and making sure that they leave a legacy for Michigan football. Because I actually think a guy who transfers away from the program after winning a national title probably is just kind of like a peg down in the future when he comes back, 20-year anniversary, et cetera. I just don't want to see guys make the wrong decision, jump into a situation where they're not going to coach as well, and, they kind of leave a legacy behind of leaving after a national title when they had a year or more of eligibility left. That's it for the Michigan Football Report. We will have more for you tomorrow, including an interview with Michigan legend and current San Francisco 49ers player Ronnie Bell, so make sure you guys subscribe to the channel. Till then, go Blue.